From the Bakersfield Californian, this is the Renegade Report.
Here's your host. He's all grins, Francis Mayer.
I'm all grin because I get to work with charming people like my technical director, Chris McCullough. Thank you, Chris. Welcome to the Renegade Report. I'm your host, Francis Mayer, Sports Information Director of the greatest junior college athletic department in the known universe, BC Athletics. And how do I know? Well, because I'm there every day. And I see people who inspire me to do better because they do better. And boy, have we had a litany of examples of that this academic year, whether it was our indoor volleyball team playing, as Coach Ferreira put it, right up to their potential, or whether it was our softball and our baseball teams, both denizens of the Dean Oneida Gay Sports Complex, finding their groove and qualifying for the postseason. It's been an incredible run. Has it not? Athletic Director Sandy Taylor.
It's been a lot of fun, for sure.
It really has been. We have some teams that are heart attack kids, starting with one that's close to your heart, the softball team, and I know their run just came to an end, but boy, not for lack of trying.
No, they played really hard at Long Beach on Tuesday. They came up a little bit short, but the teams were very well matched. It was a good game and very competitive back and forth, much like the whole last part of their season was, come from behind wins and over extra innings and etc. So they've been very exciting to watch.
It was every sort of drama that you could ask for as a sports fan, and really the softball team in the beginning of the season before conference play, they lost 7 in a row.
Well,
errors. There was a lot of tough stuff.
Right. They started out pretty slow. There's a huge learning curve, as you know, at college athletics, and they finally got it on track. But they play a tough preseason schedule. You have to. In this day and age with RPI, you don't have a choice but to play a tough schedule. And, they took their lumps early on, but I think it made them tougher in the end.
And you just glossed over something. In the journalism business, we call it burying the lead. You mentioned something called RPI, not to be confused with RBI, which is run, batted, in. What is RPI? And boy, has it had a role this season for us.
It has, and it is each sport has a little different formula that they use, but it's a way to try to calculate your strength of schedule. And it's used in seeding meetings to try to put the best order, if you will, of the teams and how they've competed in the last spring. The hard part is that there's no comparison. It's apples and oranges. We travel a lot of teams in the, metropolitan area, Orange Empire area, they don't travel nearly as much. So that there's some intangibles that it doesn't address. But the concept is good. It's just I'm not sure the formula is correct, but I don't have the answer for it. So at this point, this is what we're going with.
And people ask us sometimes what a renegade is, and one definition is it's a disloyal knight, and another definition might be that it's someone who rebels against the status quo and does what's right, and I think that one applies to our athletic department because you're correct. We play a lot of teams in the Los Angeles and Orange County metropolitan area who could take a city bus to their next game, whereas we need to take a charter bus. And Fresno is nigh, but just under 2 hours north of us, but they play a lot of northern teams where we get to play the southern teams. And whoa, are they tough.
They are tough, and we love competing in Southern California, and being located where we're located is just what it is. But the RPI is designed to try to balance it a little bit so that it's not a subjective opinion in where you should be seated. The problem is I think the formula is a little bit flawed, but as I said, I don't have an answer for it, so I'm constantly talking about that and trying to evaluate it. But it has to do with your opponent's win percentage and your opponent's win percentage, and then your own as well. But it just seems a little skewed with the weight, and it's unfortunate, but everybody knows going into it, that's what it is. And so you schedule to try to get the best opportunities for your student in the end. And, I think our teams have done a great job with that. It's just that it's it's the system is what it is right now.
And I'm not going to ask the athletic director to say this, but I'll say it, okay? This is a great lesson for how sometimes life isn't fair. But regardless of that, our teams have shown time and again that they play their tails off. And we'll go all the way back because we're sort of reviewing the year now to men's basketball. And they played their tails off all season. They were dominant, maybe one of the best teams in the state, in my opinion. And they won the Western State South Conference, a very competitive conference, but they didn't get a home playoff game.
Correct. And it's becoming more apparent to folks across the state that there may be a flaw in the system. I've been arguing this as a softball coach for a number of years because there's no way that I could schedule enough of those contests that I could get the same RPI points as if I played the last place team in one of the conferences in the Orange Empire or South Coast. And so, as I said, I don't have the answer to it, but you're right. Our men's basketball team, in my opinion, should have been seated much higher and had a home game. And a lot of people felt that way. But at the same time, you've got to compete with whether you're at home, you got to go through them sometime. And so we'd love to have more home events, but at the same time, we're just going to compete until we can't anymore.
Right. And you know, not that I'm a huge fan of the Oakland Raiders, but they were the first team to win a Super Bowl from a wild card berth. So things do happen, and if you're the best team, it will come out in the wash. But there are so many things that go into making a championship, and I think, would you say, and you won over 500 games as a coach, is there an aspect of luck that comes into it?
Well, sometimes I would rather be lucky than good. So there's always an element of luck, but usually not over skill or talent or circumstance, if you will. But, you know, there's all kinds of factors. The basketball team lost on that last-second layup that just sat on the rim and, you know, an eighth of an inch either direction, and that ball falls in the hoop. So, you know, there's a little bit of luck to all of that sort of thing, but you know, that doesn't determine the outcome generally.
No, and I would say that sometimes you learn more about people's characters in the losing than you do in the winning. And now that you mention it, boy, did we have a number of things this season that came down to one stroke, one shot, 1 second, one play. You know, we had a golfer this year who showed tremendous guts all season long. In his collegiate career, he's overcome some obstacles and dealt with some things. And in the conference championships, it came down to one stroke in horrible weather.
Right. That was some really tough conditions to play golf in, and I thought he conducted himself very well and lost in a cart-off, so he lost by one stroke to advance to Southern Cal's, and he was clearly disappointed, but, you know, you're playing in the wind like that. I don't know if any folks remember, but that was played on the Monday when the storm was really bad out at Rio Bravo, and so, you know, it was unfortunate that he didn't advance, but he could be really proud of himself for how he played that day. Well,
yeah, and then he came on the show that week, and he talked about how everything went. He wanted to look at his reaction to some of the missed putts, and he's like, that's fuel right there. I'm going to remember that until I erase it, and I thought, boy, that is a lot of fortitude. But he did not quit. He finished. And there's a lot to be said for that, too, the not giving up. How many teams did we have qualify for postseason play this year?
We had 15 out of 19 qualified. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? 15 of our 19 programs qualified at least one individual, and then obviously the team sports qualify as a team. But it was just amazing. I was sitting at the softball game, and they had to win 2 to advance to the playoffs, and I was just started counting it up, and I was like, oh, my goodness, we had 15 out of 19 qualified.
How did this happen?
Well, a lot of hard work by our coaches and our students, for sure.
That is the absolute truth. And we'd be remiss if we didn't mention a big piece of that this season, and that's been the addition of, well, some facilities and a very important human being to run them. We opened the Performance Enhancement Center at Bakersfield College this year in the Gil Bishop Sports Center. And Coach Zach, what a tremendous addition to the family.
Oh, he's been tremendous. I just love Zach. I love his energy. He's so positive. He is a fan of all athletics. You know, he really studies what he's doing, and he wants the best for those students. And he works well with all of our staff, with our athletic trainers. So he's just been a perfect fit to the program.
He has a tremendous addition. It would have been one thing, and we couldn't have added the equipment and the facilities without the help of our friends in the community. Don't let us overlook that. But him coming in to run it is like tying the whole package together, really.
Sure, I mean, you can have the greatest facility in the world, but it's the people that make it a program. And you know, our foundation friends and our community friends help support get the room together, but Zach has pulled it together and made it a program.
Oh, he absolutely has. He's got ties to the community. He went away to UCLA and did an internship there, a graduate program, as it were, and brought a lot of those values and modern training techniques back to Bakersfield College, the community that he grew up in, and we're very grateful for that. Coach, there are going to be some more changes coming our way, but before I get to the big one that hasn't happened yet, beach volleyball. They are still playing in the postseason. We have an interview with Coach Ferreira that we're going to play later. But how remarkable is it, and are you surprised that Coach Ferreira would bring a new sport to Bakersfield College and then qualify for the postseason in the first year?
I'm not a bit surprised. I knew Carl was the perfect person to lead that beach volleyball. I think he's right at home in his bare feet on the sand, coming from Hawaii, and I think he's just perfect. I have no doubt that they were going to be successful, and it's really exciting to see those students and their success and how much they enjoyed that season. And they competed with some pretty tough teams.
Oh, they did, and teams that maybe are more used to this. And I didn't know this, and again, we're going to talk to Coach Ferrer later in the show, but we didn't have a single player who had competitive experience in beach volleyball before this year.
No, and how would they, right? I mean,
Sure.
It's not in the high schools yet,
No.
but it around here anyway.
Probably
But
will
it-
be soon.
Right, but it is growing leaps and bounds. When we played out at Cal State, I had the opportunity to talk to a gentleman who they run a club team out there in the evenings that they train. So there was kind of a gap, between that youth group and Cal State system. So I'm glad we could fill that gap and give those students an opportunity to participate.
And Vance Palmer was just checking in. Vance, of course, and his partner, Kirk Boyer, have called BC football for the last several seasons, and they do a great job at that. He said we look good, by the way. Vance would know. Handsome son of a gun.
Thanks,
God,
Vance.
What a great hairline on that guy. Jealousy. But his boy is playing competitive volleyball. Now, volleyball is one of those sports that's going universal. Like, people are really playing it in droves.
Well, and we have men's volleyball in our conference. We just happen to not provide that opportunity. But men's volleyball has been kind of coming along. Even back when I went to school, they had men's volleyball in Fresno, Clovis area. And I actually had a little club team at BC when I first started that was men's volleyball. There's a lot of interest in volleyball for male participation. So I did notice that Vance's son was participating. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful too. And Coach, you've talked before about how volleyball has changed from when you played and you coached. Why is it so different? Are the athletes more dynamic? Is it strategy? What is it?
Well, they've changed a little bit in the game, just like they did in softball, but they've changed it to it's a 25-point game and it's rally scoring, so it's much more fast-paced, where it's not trading points back and forth. If you're not serving, you don't win a point. Everybody gets a point on every play. So I think that's increased a little bit the excitement and the energy in it. But technique and knowledge, officiating on the indoor is much looser than it is in outdoor. So I think that has something to do with it. There's obviously, if you can set it and you're not called for every little rotation of the ball, and then you can have more success that way. At least that's on the indoor, not in beach. Beach is much more strict with their calls. So
it is, and Coach Carl just told me something about the coaching, and I'm going to ask you about that after we check in with our sponsors, but not something that I realized that there is a restriction to coaching beach volleyball, and I wonder how some of our coaches would deal with it if that restriction was applied to their sports. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back with a little more of the athletic director, Sandy Taylor, and what you can expect in the fall. We've got some big surprises on the way. Don't go anywhere. There's more Renegade Report coming up next.